Hey everybody, welcome to the Mana Leak. I'm John as always, and it's time for another Top 10 Thursday. This time it's the top 10 rares and or mythics that I want to see tomorrow night when I draft Shadows over Innistrad for the first time. Now this isn't necessarily going to be the absolute most powerful cards. There's a few cards that I would love to have just to be able to win with that don't make this list. This is just the 10 that I want to see. Many because they are powerful, but some just because they're super duper fun. But we're going to get right into the list. Up first at number 10, we have Westvale Abbey, which of course transforms into Ormandal, Profane Prince. Yeah, Westvale Abbey I've already played with. I played with it in Sealed. I had it in my second Sealed event last weekend at the pre-release. Unfortunately, I never got to flip it. I got to play it, and I tapped it for mana a lot, and I made I think a couple of tokens, but I never got to flip it. So I want to open it again so that I can actually flip it this time and start swinging in with a 9/7 flying, indestructible, lifelink, haste. Can't remember if it has anything else offhand. Now, as a lot of people found out at the pre-release, there are a number of ways to deal with it. Exile removal takes care of it. Bouncing it, of course, basically kills it because it comes back as a land. There are ways to deal with it. It's not as totally game-ending, impossible to beat as some people expected. But if you're not ready for it, if you don't have one of those answers, you are just going to die pretty fast. So I would love to see Westvale Abbey in a pack so that I can take it and play with it again and hopefully flip it this time. At number 9, we have the Gitrog Monster, Big Ol' Frogzilla. I'm not totally sold on this being completely insane in Limited. I'm pretty sure it's going to be very, 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 very good in Limited, but I'm not sold on it being insane exactly. Playing an extra land just doesn't always happen in Limited. Mina and Den I played with a lot in Limited, and I played usually 2 extra lands per match, assuming I got Mina and Den out at least a couple of times in that match. It just doesn't happen all the time. So I do definitely see the downside of having to sack a land every turn and not necessarily getting to play 2 every turn. Getting to draw a card is fantastic, of course, and just having a 6/6 Death Toucher is going to be fantastic. So I definitely want to play it. I definitely want to open it, play with it. I'm not sold on it being insane, but I'm sold on it being probably a first pick. So number 9, Gitrog Monster. Up next at number 8, we have Relentless Dead, another card that I don't know if it's insane in Limited. I think it has way more constructed potential in Modern for sure, and in Standard if we get enough zombies, etc. In Limited, the zombies are the issue. There's not that many amazing zombies in this set. There's some good ones, and there's some bad ones. And a lot of them are tokens. And of course, tokens are not going to be coming back from the graveyard off of Relentless Dead. So I'm not totally sold on Relentless Dead being insane in Limited, but I definitely want to play with it. It seems like a lot of fun, and it seems like a fantastic pack one, pick one, because then I can take those good to mediocre zombies and not feel as bad because I have a way of recurring them with Relentless Dead. I can chump block every day because I can chump block with the Relentless Dead and then bring things back. I definitely want to open it. I definitely want to pack one, pick one, it, build around it, and see how it is. I would love to see Relentless Dead in my packs tomorrow night. Next up at number 7, we have Arlinn Kord / Arlinn Embraced by the Moon. Arlinn Kord, she's a Planeswalker. How can I not want to open her? There are 2 Planeswalkers that aren't going to make this list, one because I played with it already, and one because I just don't think she's that amazing in Limited, and you all know who that is. But Arlinn looks so much fun. She's a flip card as well. I've talked about how versatile she is in my set reviews. The fact that she can really support one creature by giving it vigilance and pumping it up a whole bunch, or supporting a whole board by giving your whole team a buff is really solid. She has some removal attached onto her, and just the amount of anxiety that your opponent's going to feel when she hits the other side of the table and they're not going to know what you're going to do with her is just going to be totally worth it. I would love to open an Arlinn Kord, go red-green werewolves, red-green kind of monster stompy, and just get in there. So number 7, Arlinn Kord. Number 6, we have Wolf of Devil's Breach. Wolf of Devil's Breach is honestly a little bit boring. It's a big dog that I'm going to attack with and hopefully throw away some cards and burn away my opponent's creatures. It's not that exciting. It's not a Planeswalker. It's not a big story character who I'm going to get to play with. It's just a big dog that burns a lot of stuff. And that's fine by me. The fact that I could maybe enable Madness as well is cool. I don't even have to. I'm totally happy with the big dog that burns things. If I can, enable some fiery tempers or get out some incorrigible youths or something like that, I would be even happier. But I would be super happy just opening Wolf of Devil's Breach and just having it as a big curve topper stompy thing in a red X deck. Could be red, white, red, black, red, blue, red, green. Could be anything. Could be mono red for that matter. And I would be happy with Wolf of Devil's Breach. Next up at number 5, we have Jace on Raveler of Secrets. Jace is another Planeswalker. He's the second Planeswalker that's going to be on this list, and the last Planeswalker that's going to be on this list. Now, contrary to accusations that I get every single set review, I like control. In fact, blue-black control is probably my most commonly drafted deck across all sets. I frequently get accused during my set reviews that I'm an aggro player, that I only like playing little guys that attack for a lot of damage because I talk about consistency, and because I talk about, well, you don't usually get to the late game. But if people would notice, they would notice that I usually say, well, you don't usually get to the late game when I'm talking about a green card or a red card or a white card. I love getting to the late game. I love playing grindy games and playing some counter spells as long as they're good. And I love bounce. So Jace just has everything for me. The card draw, the bounce. If I actually ultimate him, basically being able to say no to my opponent's first spell every turn would be incredible. I super want to open Jace because I want to play blue-black control. And I also really want to try out that blue-red kind of spells deck that seems to exist. Whether or not it's going to be good, who knows, but I definitely want to play with it. And if I see Jace tomorrow night, it might be something that I try to force even. But number 5, I would love to see Jace. Number 4, we have Odric, Lunarch Marshal. Odric I saw an awful lot of at the pre-releases. Everybody seemed to have him. I didn't. And I actually didn't play against him, but everybody around me seemed to have him. But I haven't had a chance to play with him, so I really want to give him a shot. Now, he seemed to do really well in blue-white, because in blue-white you have a lot of flyers, and with Odric on the board, you have a lot of flyers. Everything has flying if you play one of your, 8 flyers that you have in your deck. Yeah, I definitely want to give Odric a try. I want to pack one, pick one him, and just take all the French vanilla keywords. Just as a quick note, something that I didn't even notice until I did a judge call, he doesn't give the abilities forever, and he doesn't give them all the time. He only gives those abilities to all the other creatures at the beginning of combat on each step. It's not going to come up too often. The most common thing would be, I guess, if it gives hexproof, they don't have hexproof during your upkeep and your main phase 1. Probably not going to come up in limited. Probably won't come up in limited for any ability, really, but it could happen, so just be aware of that. Next up at number 3, we have Olivia, mobilized for war. She's nowhere as near as insane as her original version was. Her original version was incredibly good. I never got a chance to play with her in limited, I don't think, but I played against her, and it was not fun. But her version now is just super aggressive, so if everybody wants to accuse me of being an aggressive player or only an aggro player, go right ahead, because I would love to see Olivia tomorrow night. 3/3 flyer for 3, I'm going to play right away. The fact that she makes the rest of the guys that come in +1/+1 bigger permanently, plus makes them hasty, and maybe even enables madness is just crazy. I would love to see her, especially because she's so low cost and goes into what may be one of the better decks in this format. Black-red vampires, black-red madness, just black-red in general. But number 3, Olivia, mobilized for war. At number 2, we have Archangel Avacyn. How could we not have Avacyn on this list? She's just so insane, I can't believe that she exists. 3 white for a 4/4 flying vigilance is incredible. We used to play Sarah Angel back in the day. 3 white for a 4/4 flying vigilance, no flash. And she cost 3 white, exactly the same as Avacyn does. And she was considered totally first pickable. She was non-common, but totally first pickable. An absolute bomb, massively hard to answer. This has flash added to it. Not only that, but it also gives your entire team indestructible. And if something dies at the start of the next turn, she flips over and does 3 damage to everything. Everything, which, as we found out at the pre-releases, is generally going to kill most things. 3 is the most common toughness, and a lot of things are even less than that. There's not too many 4, 5s, or 6 toughnesses kicking around, so she will probably wipe the board. And then you're left with a 6/5 flyer, which is pretty darn solid by itself. Now, one quick note, I saw a lot of people suggest this, and I had to correct a lot of people. She does not flip over immediately. So you cannot flash her in, give your team indestructible, sacrifice something, flip her over, and kill just your opponent's stuff. Because she doesn't flip over immediately. She flips over the next turn, at the beginning of the next upkeep, after something died. So your team will not have indestructible anymore. The only way that you could do that is if you put Avacyn in, and then kill something. And then in response to her trigger at the start of the next turn, flash in your second copy of Avacyn, which if that happens in limited, wow, you got lucky. But if you can do that, you can do that. But you cannot do it any other way. She does not flip immediately. She only flips at the beginning of the next turn. So just be aware of that. But I would love to open her. I'd love to open 2 of her, but I'll just stick to 1. I'll be optimistic and not totally unrealistic and say that I would like to open Avacyn tomorrow night. Finally, at number 1, some of you can probably guess what I have here, but it's Startled Awake. I want to play with Startled Awake so bad. As I said, I like control. I also love alternate win conditions, especially when they're viable. And milling 13 and being able to do it repeatedly is very viable as an alternate win condition. I like long grindy games. I like taking 06 walls so that I can build up to something later in the game. I enjoy doing that, so I definitely want to see Startled Awake in my packs tomorrow night. Against some decks, you know, the first hit could kill them. If it's against a self-mill deck or Delirium that's already been doing my work for me, I could kill them in one. In one go, I could just be done. And the second one should absolutely kill basically every deck. Now, there are ways around this. Your opponent could have exile removal, so when you return Startled Awake, they just exile it and it's gone forever. They could exile it out of your graveyard. They could throw a Bound by Moonsilver on it, etc. There are things they could do. They could simply just be so aggressive that you're dead before you get a chance to mill them out. That all can happen. In fact, it happened at the pre-release where I was hit by Startled Awake on turn 4. And then on turn 5, I was hit by the second Startled Awake in his deck. And I still won. I won with 3 cards left in my library because he was casting spells and I was hitting him in the face for a lot of damage nonstop. And that was the end of that. So there are ways to beat it. I know it's not necessarily the single best card in the set, but I really want to open it. It's my number 1. It's the card that I most want to see in my pack 1, pick 1 tomorrow night. Definitely let me know what you want to see in your packs tomorrow night, what you think are the best rares, the most fun rares, or just simply the rares that you want to see at your first draft of Shadows over Innistrad, be that tonight, tomorrow night, next weekend, whenever you do your first draft, because of course Shadows releases tonight at midnight. I know some stores do midnight releases, not around my area unfortunately, but I'll be doing it tomorrow night. And of course you'll all get to watch. I will have my camera set up behind my shoulder watching me draft, so you can watch me draft. That'll be Spiky Saturday this week, so make sure that you do check that out. But as always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can find me on Twitter at The Mana Leak. That's L-E-E-K, like the vegetable, not the card. And you can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/TheManaLeak. You've already found me here on YouTube. You've got that comment section down below. Please make use of that. As well, if you haven't liked my videos yet, you should like them. You should like them all the time. Clicking that little thumbs up icon makes me feel good. But it also helps my videos keep rising up through the ranks. As well, if you haven't subscribed, you really, really should. Doing that will keep you up to date on all the latest videos as they appear. There's a button right down there, or maybe it's down there. I don't know if my camera's flipped right now or not. But there's also one in the outro of each video. If you haven't clicked that yet, you should click that and make sure that you are subscribed. But as always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, see y'all next time.